So that didn't really help my slump much, to be honest with you. If anything, it just kind of made it worse. And so I'm really happy to have a clean set. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome to another reading vlog. In this video, my goal is to finish my current reads. I'm afraid I've fallen into a little bit of a reading slump recently. I've wanted to read, like I always have the desire to be reading a book, like I always have to be reading a book, but the thought of reading a book kind of just doesn't seem fun right now. And I don't think it's the books I'm reading, because I'm enjoying the books I'm reading. I'm reading like 3 right now. I think it's because I just went on a vacation last week to Montana. I stayed at a dude ranch and it was the best week ever, and I was just fully immersed in nature, in the mountains. I didn't read very much at all on that trip, so readjusting to like real life has been pretty difficult for me. So my goal for this video is to finish all of my current reads and potentially start a new book, but we will see how my reading progress goes. I also immediately started house sitting, so I'm currently house sitting right now for about a week, and then the day that this house sitting job ends, I start another house sitting job. But the good thing is that that one is much closer to my house, like it's walkable to my house, so it won't be too bad. But I am just a bit discombobulated right now, so I will quickly take you through my current reads. I'm still reading When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker. If you watched my last vlog, I think I ended it right before I went on the trip, and I did not end up finishing it at all on the trip. I didn't read in the car because I get car sick very easily and I slept quite a bit. But I'm actually so close to finishing this. I have just a little over 100 pages left, which is about this much. So I'm very, very close. It's currently a Friday night, so I won't be able to finish it in this week, but I'm hoping in the next week I can finish this book. I just haven't really felt pulled to this. To be honest, I was just very distracted by my trip, and I was just fully immersed in what we were doing, so I didn't really have time to pick this up. But I have been reading it for basically the whole month of May, I think, and June so far. So I would really like to finish this soon. I'm curious to read the sequel, but I'll have to see how the last little bit goes. And I would really like to get back into this world because it's very dense and we've learned a lot so far. But yeah, I would just like to re-immerse myself in that world and finally be finished with it. Not that I'm not enjoying it, I am. I just need to get back into it. And the other book I'm reading right now is on my iPad. I'm reading Indigo Ridge by Devney Perry. I read it because it's set in Montana and I went to Montana. So it was a perfect book for the setting, but I wanted to read it because it was like a romance slash murder mystery slash like romantic suspense. Hello, do you want to say hello? This is Poppy, who clearly doesn't want to be on camera, but she wants to bite me. But the concept of it sounded really good, of like being a romance mixed with like murder mystery elements, and so far I'm enjoying it. I wish there was more murder mystery and less romance, because so far we've gotten just so much like sex scenes between the two main characters, which like is fine, like it's a romance book, I understand, but like they were already obsessed with each other by chapter 4 and it was marketed as enemies to lovers, and I'm like, BS, you know, like that's not, like, whatever. Whatever, it's a romance book. I'm reading it for a fun time and for the setting. I wasn't expecting literary greatness. But I am about 69% into this book, so I'm really close to finishing. I do have to work tomorrow, but potentially I would like to finish this. If not finish it, get really close to finishing it tonight and like just read it in bed. So yeah, those are my 2 main priorities. I do have a little bit of a book haul, which is also a potential read after I finish those 2 books. But this is actually a book by someone I follow on Instagram, but she basically documented her writing her book on Instagram, and I followed the entire journey, which was so cool to see, especially as an aspiring author myself. And so she self-published this completely. She documented all parts of the process, and I'm just really proud of her. It was really, really cool to like be able to pre-order this and like, you know, finally get my hands on it. I'm so excited. But this is The Queen's Curse by Taylor Ugranow. You should definitely go follow her, and I will leave the link to not only her book but her Instagram in my description. But this just sounds so good. Like, I'm very excited for this, not only because I like am kind of familiar with this person on social media, but also because it sounds so good. It says, a lost heir, a cursed quest, failure is not an option. Ari has only known a life of servitude in Noctarn. I think it's Noctarn. I don't know. As a mortal, seen as weak by the powers in her kingdom, she has endured 16 long years of torment in the Soulfire mines. She, like most in Lumen, despises the Eldarim, the elite members of society with the right to claim immortality from Althara, the highest power in the realm. Desperate to provide a better life for her mother, when the king calls for fighters, assassins, and hunters to search for his lost heir, Ari doesn't hesitate to join the quest. What she doesn't realize is that Lincoln Ashfield, the most skilled assassin in Noctarn, has joined it too. But Ari doesn't give up easily. She would rather die trying than stay stagnant, and she will stop at nothing to find the lost heir and earn the life she deserves. And I believe there's like Selkies and giants and like a whole bunch of like mythical creatures and just really unique like fantasy world building, which sounds very promising to me. And I'm just really excited to get to this. Like, I am definitely in reading slump. Like, I can feel that in my day-to-day like ways of thinking and my like routine. But this is probably what's keeping me going, is the fact that I will get to read this book soon once I finish those two. And it's only like a little under 400 pages, so I feel like it'll be pretty quick, and I hope it is like very fast-paced and engaging, and I just have really high hopes for this. I'm also just really curious to see what I think, because I've watched her entire process of drafting and editing and publishing this book, and it's just really exciting. Plus, I would also like to read it so I can share it with you, and hopefully you can go read it too and help support her, because I just think that is so important, especially because she self-published it. Like, she did everything herself for this, which is amazing. So I'm gonna stop talking. I think I'm gonna go take a shower and get comfy in bed and try and finish Indigo Ridge, and hopefully I can update you tomorrow with either my finished thoughts of it or a little update. Hey everybody, I'm pretty sure it's been like a week since I've updated you, and I'm so sorry. This slump has been like seeping into my real life too. It's not just the reading that is affected, it is like everything, and I think I'm just really out of my routine because I've been house sitting, and it has been pretty smooth sailing, but finally I'm done, at least with this house sitting job. I'm moving on to my next house sitting job, which will be fun because I get to hang out with a cute little doggy. I'm hanging out with some kitty cats right now that are about to fight, I can just tell. So I am moving on to yet another house sitting job, but the good thing is that it's like 3 houses down from my house. So I will be closer to home, and I will technically be home. And I just have been very out of it. I'm just ready to be home after my vacation and then this house sitting, and I'm just so discombobulated. But the reading slump is still present. I'm still in the thick of that, but I do have a lot of reading updates for you right now. So I did finish Indigo Ridge by Daphne Perry. That was my current read when I first updated you, and when I started this vlog. I have finished it now, and I ended up giving it 2 stars. It was just very like okay. Like, I expected so much more out of that book. It was promised to be like a small town romance, and it definitely was a small town romance, but the thing is, it was marketed as enemies to lovers, and I'm like, you guys have no business calling each other enemies, like truly, like that. It was not enemies to lovers at all. And there was also supposed to be a big murder mystery plot, and there was, and that was definitely what carried that book for me. That was the most entertaining part of Indigo Ridge, but I wish it had more of like the forefront of the story. The focus of the story was definitely the romance, which makes sense because it's a romance author, like that's fine, but I just had hoped that the murder mystery and like the like thrilling suspense parts of it would have been a bit stronger and would have been more at the front of this story, because to be honest, I was just kind of bored the whole time. I was just waiting for the next like lead in the case, or for them to discover something, and it was just kind of just not what I thought it would be. I don't really know what my expectations were, but I've heard really good things about this series, and I just won't be continuing it. It just didn't really entertain me. So that didn't really help my slump much, to be honest with you. If anything, it just kind of made it worse. After that, I did start reading Hollow by Karina Halley, and I've tried to read from this author before, and I DNF'd another book I started by her. And unfortunately, I also DNF'd this one. I DNF'd Hollow. It is a Sleepy Hollow, like, retelling, reimagining, and instead of it being like a really small, like, New England town of Sleepy Hollow based around the Headless Horseman, it follows Katrina Van Tassel, who is a pretty important character in the original Sleepy Hollow story, but in this book she is the main character, and off the bat this just like really took me by surprise. Again, I don't really know what I was expecting from this book, but in this world there is a Sleepy Hollow like institute for like witches and people with magic, and so Katrina Van Tassel gets to go to this university where Ichabod Crane is a professor, and it sounds kind of wacky. It is a little bit silly. But it was just like, from the get-go, this book was just way too lusty for me. Like, I'm not opposed to like spicy scenes in books, and especially romance books, because that's what this book is, but I just didn't think it would be like chapter 1. We're already getting a scene like that, and then Katrina meets Ichabod, who's her professor, and they're already like laser focused, like lust after each other, and I just wasn't really vibing with that. All I wanted was like fun, silly, goofy, like Sleepy Hollow kind of spooky vibes, and I don't know, it was giving that, but I just wasn't connecting to it. It was just a bit too ridiculous for me. Like, I just couldn't really connect to it. I couldn't suspend my disbelief. If you can't tell, this reading slump is really getting to me because I just feel kind of delirious. So I DNF'd that one. I got about 20% through. Now I have started reading Gone Girl by, I think it's Gillian or Gillian Flynn. I think everyone knows this book, or at least knows of the movie. This is like a thriller book. It follows the main character Nick Dunn, and we follow him trying to figure out what happened to his wife because it is their 5th anniversary and she has gone missing. And I do not trust Nick Dunn. Something is wrong with him. Something is up with him. He is a very misleading person, but so far I'm really enjoying this book. It's holding my attention a lot more, and I'm feeling more connected and more engaged with the plot and the characters. I don't like Nick as a character, but I'm so curious to find out what happened to Amy and see what is going on with Nick, because he's giving me very mixed signals right now. Hello everyone, I apologize, it's been like a week since I've updated you. This reading slump is killing me. My reading progress has been, I don't know, I've kind of been reading, but it's been hard to just stay consistent. I was at one house sitting job, as you saw at the start of this video, and now I'm at the other. I started reading Gone Girl by Gillian or Gillian Flynn, whichever pronunciation it is. And this is giving me what I want. I wanted something fast-paced, something with a mystery, something really like engaging that's gonna hold my attention. And I wanted something where I could like care about the characters and be invested to them. And I will say that is the case for these characters, but I do not like them like as people. Like if they were people in real life, I would want nothing to do with them, but their lives are very interesting. If you don't know the plot of Gone Girl, it follows Nick Dunn. He wakes up on his 5th anniversary with his wife to find that she is now missing, and you know, he's trying to figure out what happened to her, but we also get to read her diary entries from when she first met him and from like the beginnings of their marriage leading up to, I assume, the disappearance. And it's very interesting so far. I do not trust Nick, but I also don't trust his wife Amy. I don't like them both, and I'm curious to see where it goes. I forget how far I am. Oh well, my iPad's dead, so I can't even check for you. I think I'm close to 20% or a little over 20%. I'm around that mark, but I really hope I can finish it soon. It's been very fast-paced, and I'm just so invested, and I want to know more. Then as for my physical book, I'm still reading When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker, but since my iPad is dead, my goal right now is to read as much of this as I can. I literally have just over 100 pages left in this book, and I've been reading it for so long. I'm ready to be done and move on to my Summerween books and to other books that I'm more interested in right now. So I'm going to continue this. Hopefully I can finish it, but I will let you know when I do. Hey everyone, I have the tiniest little book haul for you. I did do a little bit of book shopping from thrift books, but one of them was my free book reward and the other I like sold some books to them, so I got some credit. So I only got two. I didn't need to buy these, but I had my reward, so I might as well use them. So the first book I got is A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. This is the first book in the Shades of Magic series, and I really wanted this specific cover. I'm not really the biggest fan of the new covers. Like, they're not bad, but I just prefer the red and white and black aesthetic. I just feel like it always like matches this series, and I feel like I always associate these books with these covers, and I don't know, they're just really nice and simple and pretty to me. This ended up being my free book reward, which was really awesome. It is like obviously used, like you can tell the white isn't as white as it used to be, but it's a really like good condition paperback. It's pretty floppy. The text is really big, which is nice. That's always very exciting when I get a book and the font is pretty massive. And yeah, I've just heard amazing things about this series. I recently read The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by the same author, and I've wanted to get into more of her books, and I've just heard great things about the series as a whole, and I just love her writing, so I'm curious to start this here soon. Hopefully I can do it in the fall. I feel like it will really fit like the fall and winter vibe. And then I was so excited when this showed up in stock on thrift books. I was very happy, but I got Dreams of Gods and Monsters by Laini Taylor. This is the third book in the Daughter of Smoke and Bone series, which I haven't actually read the series. I haven't started it yet, but I wanted this cover specifically because earlier this year I got the first two books in the matching like UK editions. I just really like these covers. They're so pretty to me. So I still have not started the series, but I think it'd be really fun to film like a dedicated reading vlog for these books where I like binge them and then I give my like full spoilery thoughts, because Laini Taylor is like one of my favorite authors. I've always loved her books, and Strange the Dreamer is like my favorite book of all time, so I've always wanted to read this series as well and see what I think. And so I'm really happy to have a complete set. So yeah, it's definitely just a small haul. I did not really need those, but I'm officially gonna go on a book buying ban and only use my library and only use my physical TBR. Hello. Today is Thursday. I think I last updated you on Sunday where I told you I was reading Gone Girl, and I still was reading When the Moon Hatched, and I still am reading When the Moon Hatched. I read just a little bit. I'm up to page 544, which is like 140 pages. I think I have 140, 150 pages left of this book, which is so doable. It's so doable. I'm just not in a fantasy mood, which like, who am I? I'm always in a fantasy mood. I always want to be reading fantasy. Literally, I have a book club based on fantasy books. Like, fantasy books are my favorite. So for me to like be in a fantasy slump, I don't really know what's going on with me. I don't know why, but I have been feeling this way for quite a bit. I would really like to finish this before the weekend, because this weekend Summerween officially starts and I have a really ambitious TBR for that, and I would really like to start all of those books by Friday. Tomorrow? Friday or Saturday. I'm not gonna like rush myself. So I would love to read more of this tonight and potentially finish it tomorrow. It's currently about 5 o'clock. My boyfriend's gonna be home in like an hour and a half. So I'm not saying I'll read all of that in this time period, but I would just like to read a bit more of it tonight. Even while he's home, he'll probably want to play his video game and I'll read some of this. We have our gaming reading dates, so I will hopefully get some reading done tonight of this. However, I am so invested in Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. I am obsessed with this book. I don't think I told you where I was at last time because my iPad was dead, but I am now 58% through this book. I cannot put this down. This was the exact type of book I was looking for to help with my reading slump, something fast-paced, like really addicting. It has kind of short chapters, like they're medium-sized chapters, but just the characters are so interesting to me. The whole plot line of Amy going missing and Nick trying to figure out what's happened to her, but also kind of not really caring. And like there are so many reveals that like I kind of saw coming, but a lot of them did kind of wow me. Like I was very blown away by a lot of the plot twists in this book so far, and I am just so curious to know what happens at the end. Like I cannot wait to know, and I'm very excited to continue reading this. But I will say, although the characters are interesting, I do not like them. Like I hate Nick Dunn. I cannot stand him. He's probably my least favorite character of any book of all time. Well, maybe not any book of all time, but like he makes the list of like the most hated characters in books for me. And I don't know, I have a bit more respect for Amy. Maybe because I understand her a bit more, but I still am like, I don't trust you all the way. Like I can't really fully commit myself to like being on Amy's side because I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't have all the puzzle pieces yet, but I am loving this. I'm so invested, and I will let you know my thoughts when I find out what happens. And I just can't wait. So I do still feel like I am in the middle of this slump. But my goal for the rest of this video is to finish Gone Girl and to finish When the Moon Hatched. And I think that is very doable. I don't really know if any of these will break the slump, but I do think finishing a book I've been reading for a really long time will help with that because it'll be off my mind. Like it's just like a weight on my shoulders. I've been reading this for so long. And then this is just something fast paced. It's the exact type of book I've been looking for. So it's gonna help motivate me to continue reading, to want to read more books. I'm feeling the reading spark coming back. I don't know if it's just like I'm off my period or I don't know. I really don't know what it is. I feel like there's a lot of factors, but I am feeling a bit better about reading going forward. Another thing, we are having a heat wave right now, so it's currently about like 96 degrees and I am dying. I really wish I could read outside. I would love to go hang up my hammock or sit on the deck, but like I can't bear it. Even just stepping outside for 2 seconds, I'm like sweating and it's horrible and it makes me excited for fall. So woohoo, summerween. But yeah, I think I'm going to sit here, turn on some ambience on the TV, and I'll probably, you know, I'm really pulled towards Gone Girl right now, but I think I'm gonna force myself to read some of When the Moon Hatched because I would really like to finish this. And I just know at this point I have to sit down and force myself to do it. So I will update you when I have some thoughts on this. Hopefully I will have finished this by the next time I talk to you, and hopefully I will have something else to say about Gone Girl. I have finished When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker. I finished this last night. Wow. I have a lot to say about this book, and I feel like I'm not going to be able to convey my thoughts super well because I read this for such a long time. It's not that I forgot everything that happened, but I feel like my feelings about this book changed so frequently because it was almost 700 pages. I read it for about 2 months straight, and it's not that that like is a bad thing. Like I'm kind of happy I did that, but I do wish I would have like stuck with it and really finished it in a timely fashion, like before my vacation, because then I would have like, I don't know, I wouldn't have prolonged it. And I think I prolonged it at a bad time because it just made the last couple hundred pages really drag for me. And I don't know, it didn't change how I feel about it, but my biggest issue with this book is the pacing. I don't know if there have been changes from this indie version to the like traditional published version, because this is the like first edition like indie published version. I got it when it like first came out, and I don't know if things have been changed to where the pacing seems a lot faster and there's less like slow filler moments, but that was my biggest problem. I felt like I don't know, there was a lot that happened in this book. It was very action-packed and we learned so much about the world, but there were times when I was like, why are we doing this? Like, I loved being in Rave's head. I love her as a character, and I really grew to like Khan as well. I am actually so excited to read book 2 because they are just such compelling characters, and I was definitely more intrigued with everything that happened like in the past that Rave was like discovering about herself and about what happened before, and that was definitely the most intriguing part to me, and like the history with the dragons and, you know, all the kingdoms and everything. I was so invested in that part. The current timeline though, like when we're currently following Rave, I don't know, I still really liked her then, and I liked how she interacted with Khan and everything they were doing, but it was just like we were going from one thing to another and it felt very prolonged for no reason. I wish it would have been a bit more concise and we hadn't spent like a bunch of gaps in between some of the events. Or if we did have like gaps in between like the beginning, the midpoint, and the end, they would have been a bit like more condensed and not as drawn out. That was just me though. I just feel like this book, it had a pacing issue, and I don't think that's an issue of the author's writing, because truly this author's writing is so beautiful. Her prose is incredible. Like, I am so glad I read this because it inspires me to write this way and like write such a beautiful book. I don't think the book necessarily needed to be like shorter, because everything that happened I feel like is essential, and I loved everything that happened. But like there are things that I probably forgot because I was so caught up in other things, and it had just been so long since it happened that I just didn't remember it. And there were like overarching plot lines and like through lines with the characters, and Rave's like quest for revenge and stuff like that, and then the romance that was brewing. I don't know. I don't know what I would have done differently if I had written this, to be honest with you. Like, I can't really place it because obviously I'm not the creator of this world, but I don't know. Something just felt missing for me. So the pacing was my biggest stipulation. The characters, I actually really love them. I cannot wait to read book 2, like I said. I'm just so intrigued by what's gonna happen. Like, I'm terrified, but like wow, this world is one of the most unique I've ever read. And I'm just so glad that Sarah A. Parker wrote a book like this because it is so unique. It reminds me, well, okay, it doesn't remind me of Strange the Dreamer because Strange the Dreamer is like nothing like this, but the uniqueness and the like mystique of this world is so unique. This book kind of reminds me of when I first read Strange the Dreamer and how I felt then, and how I was so intrigued by the world of Weep in that book, and then the God Spawn in the Citadel. That was just nothing like I've ever read before. And this is the same thing, nothing like I've ever read before, with the dragons that go up to the sky and like curl into balls of stone and turn into moons when they go to die. And it's just so intriguing. And then the thing with the Aether Stone and how members of a certain family line can hold all the elements and hold the creator of all these elements and basically the creator of the world. Like, that is so intriguing. So I was much more intrigued with the storyline of that versus kind of everything that Rave was doing as a side quest. Like, I understand that was essential to get her where she was at the end of this book, but I wish we would have had more of that stuff. That was much more present to me in my mind. So sorry this isn't like a very coherent review. I feel like I'm jumping between a lot of points, but overall I did really enjoy this. I just don't think I could fully like commit to being obsessed with it as much as I wanted to because of the pacing and because I felt very disconnected from it at certain points. But overall I gave it a 4-star. I'm very excited to get book 2. I wish I could pick it up right now, but I have other reading plans, unfortunately. But I do have a bookstore gift card, so when I do need to get book 2, I will be using that. I definitely just see myself thinking about this book all the time. I am curious to like reread it, maybe like listen to the audiobook, and kind of refresh my memory and see what I think about things that happened, and see if the like republished version is any different, and helps with my issues with the pacing, because it's not that I found it bad. It didn't really ruin the book for me, but there was just so much that happened in this. And I just love this type of fantasy book though. Like, I love this extensiveness of world building and just like the lore between these characters. Oh, so good. Ow. And so I am still reading Gone Girl. I'm about 60% through that book. I'm hoping to finish that today. I'm going over to my boyfriend's house. The plan is to finish that today. It is the 4th of July, so we're kind of just going to be chilling until we do some fireworks. But yeah, I will update you with my final thoughts on Gone Girl. Apologies for the cat that is about to intrude on this video. Hi. So I wanted to update you guys because I did finish Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. I could not put this book down. I was so invested in everything that happened and I just wanted to read it all the time. And I definitely think it helped cure my reading slump, because I did read 2 books immediately after I finished Gone Girl back to back and read them in the span of a couple days. So I don't know if it was just I was reading on my iPad and for some reason reading an ebook tricks my brain into like thinking it can read faster or something. I don't really know like the logic or if there's any reason behind that, but I loved Gone Girl. I ended up giving it a 4 out of 5 stars, although I was super like invested and, you know, entertained and curious about the mystery surrounding Amy Dunn and her disappearance, and then, you know, if Nick had anything to do with it. I was so amazed by how intricately it was written, and like all the plot points and all the mystery, how it all came to a close. And I also really liked how complex the characters were. I feel like there was so much that we didn't know about both Nick and Amy throughout this entire book, and we just kept finding things out about them. Every time I turned the page, I was just so shocked. It just definitely held my attention, which is what I was looking for during this reading slump time. I think the only thing that like kept it from being like an absolute 5-star is just that I wasn't like fully obsessed with it. A lot of times a 5-star is like I'm just so deeply connected to the story and the characters that it takes a spot as like one of my favorite books of all time, and it just wasn't really there. I did strongly enjoy it, and I do really recommend it if you're looking for a fun, entertaining, like domestic type of thriller with really complex and well-written characters. I do really recommend this book if you haven't read it already. I did also watch the movie after I finished reading this, and I really liked it. It was very similar to the book, and I think it was really well executed because the book, like, I don't know, it was kind of different. It twisted the like normal domestic thriller, like a lot of the tropes, on its head, which I really enjoyed. It was very, very well done, and I think the movie handled it very well, all the twists and everything that happened. And I'm also curious to read Gillian Flynn's other books. I know she has one called Sharp Objects. I forget the titles of the other ones, but I've heard good things about those too. So I would like to pick up those in the future if I'm looking for another like fun, entertaining thriller to get me out of a slump, or just to read like during spooky season. But like I said, I did read 2 books back to back after I finished Gone Girl on my iPad. I don't know why, for some reason I was on a big memoir kick. So I read 2 memoirs back to back, and these definitely like propelled me fully out of the slump. I can definitely say that I'm out of a reading slump. I have such like a desire and a pull to read books right now. I'm just feeling very creative and very inspired again, which is what I wanted to get back into, and I think it's helped to be like back in my room and in my space for a consistent amount of time, because as I've mentioned throughout this entire video, I was house sitting for weeks. I had just gotten back from vacation. I was working a lot, like so much was on my plate. And so I am back in my room, although my space is not like super clean. Like I wouldn't say like my room is the most tidy right now. I'm feeling good to like be back in my safe space. But yeah, the 2 memoirs I read. I first read Nobody's Girl by Virginia Roberts Giuffre, I think is how you pronounce her last name. She was a survivor of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, and she wrote a book about her experiences and how she processed everything that happened, how she sought out justice for what happened to her and to the other victims, and how she was coping with it, starting family and, you know, learning to live with kind of everything that happened in the public eye. I thought it was really, really well written. I know she used like a collaborative author, so it wasn't just her writing the book, but either way, that doesn't really matter. I think it was a really exceptional story, and I really liked the way that it was told. It focused a lot on what she went through, especially in the first half of the book, because she wanted to give the reader like kind of the full story, everything that happened to her, so they can fully understand how evil it was. But I really liked that it pivoted in the middle, and the second half of the story focused on kind of her healing from it and her processing everything, and then her seeking out justice and really fighting to make sure that these people are punished for what they did to her and to all the other people that were victims of them. It was very, very hard to read, very, very emotional, and very, very sad. It was a devastating read. Typically, I don't really rate memoirs just because I feel like I'm rating the person's life, but I'm kind of trying to step away from that, and I'm trying to read the memoirs more objectively as like how they are conveying the story, and so I ended up giving it 5 stars, obviously because her story is so heartbreaking, but also because I feel like the way it was written and the way it was told to me had a emotional like connection to me, and it was very like gut-wrenching, and I just feel like I was so invested in this book, I also couldn't put it down, that I feel like it deserved a 5 star. And I do highly recommend that. I think it was very, very important to read, and it also is just, I don't know, I wouldn't call it an enjoyable book, but it was very, very eye-opening. And then the memoir I read immediately after that was called The Sound of Gravel by Ruth Werner. This follows her experiences growing up in a polygamist community. I could call it a cult, but I'm just gonna say community. They lived in like rural Mexico, growing up outside of the United States. She ended up having a family of I think 10 siblings, and her father was like the community leader. He started this church, I'm blanking on the name, but one of their foundations was on polygamy. And so her mom married the church leader, had her and some of her siblings, and then the church leader was killed by one of his brothers. There's a lot of history going into this. You can probably find a lot more information than I can explain to you right now. But her mom remarries to this man named Lane and has more children with him, but Lane is also taking more wives and having more children. And so you really get to see firsthand how poor they were growing up and how like unrealistic that their way of life was for them, even though that was what their like community believed, was polygamy, and that, you know, God wanted a man to take multiple wives so he can have many like prosperous children. They weren't prospering. Lane could not provide for not just Ruth and her siblings and her mom, but all of his other wives and all of his other children. And it was just very gut-wrenching. Yet again, it was very, very well written, and I felt so immersed in the atmosphere of like the rural Mexico town where they lived. And then sometimes they would visit the United States and stay with her mom's parents, so her grandparents, and I just felt like I was there the whole time, even though it was a memoir. And I feel like I struggle to like visualize and connect things with those books sometimes. This one, it felt like I was reading a fiction book, and so it was really just well written, really well done, and emotional. And I was just so connected to Ruth and her siblings and her family, and I felt so bad for them while reading this. Automatic 5 stars. I loved this book. I think The Sound of Gravel is taking the spot, as of right now, is like my favorite book of the year. Besides finishing Throne of Glass, besides some of the other fantasy books I've read, this book just really like changed me. I really, really loved it, and I wish I was filming, like actively filming while reading this. And I highly recommend The Sound of Gravel. Honestly, both Nobody's Girl and The Sound of Gravel, fantastic reads. I highly recommend them both. But yeah, overall, I'm very happy to say that I'm finally out of my reading slump. I hope you've enjoyed following me along. I'm sorry it was kind of just a train wreck sometimes, but I'm just so glad I'm out of it, and I'm so glad that I just kept pushing through and didn't let it, you know, take over my life. I'm glad I have seen the light at the end of the tunnel. It does suck that like the bulk of my summer has been spent just like constantly busy and not really like, you know, super engaged and super inspired, but I'm coming out of it now. I'm going to brace it as the summer comes to a close and fall starts, not soon, but you know, coming up here in a couple months. So I'm very excited for that coming up soon. But yeah, make sure to subscribe if you aren't already. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye bye.